Hey, everybody, this is Jimmy Smith. Welcome to another episode of the Biblical Business Leaders Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to come to you with another podcast episode because it's something that is a little bit more practical. It's something that I actually found in you've got a lot of people on social media that have different thoughts about business and whatnot. And I found this post. I actually got an email about it. And it was one that it made me think, this is something that biblical business owners and leaders should also be doing, but from a godly standpoint as well. It's a very good concept, something that I think will help a lot of people here to incorporate into their businesses and really to show how we can be separated from the world in a lot of different ways. But first and foremost, let's start with a prayer as usual, and then we'll get into the podcast. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for all of these biblical business leaders that are listening to this podcast now and that will listen to this podcast in the future. Thank you so much for everything that they do, for them having a kingdom mindset, and just for the ability for us to come here to fellowship in the different groups and to fellowship with podcasts and to be able to learn and grow together and celebrate you and glorify you in everything that we do. I pray that you speak through me today and that you help me with this podcast episode to be able to speak the things that are truly of you, and that ultimately you help the listener on the other side to take everything to heart and to prayerfully consider everything with you and be guided by you in all of their decisions. And thank you again for this opportunity. And I pray all of these things in the name of Yeshua. Amen. All right, so let's get into this. Now, first, I got this email that basically was the title of the email is Take the Small Opportunities Seriously. And that really tells you everything you need to know. I could stop there because that is also a biblical principle. But it's something that I wanted to make sure that I pointed out because, as I've told you before, these podcasts are done as things come up in my life now. There's things that come up in my day-to-day life that, either I'm dealing with and struggling with. And so I feel like we need to discuss it and fellowship over it. And I want to learn more about those things, or it's something that I've noticed helps me and I believe would help you as well from a biblical standpoint. And so one of the things that this email that I received says is the only way to make the progress you are looking for in your career is by doing such a great job and standing out so much that you are undeniably the best at what you do. And this email goes on to talk about how, even if you're making French fries at McDonald's, your job is to make the absolute best French fries possible, no matter what, right? Even if your plan is to not make French fries forever, your plan is to grow and to continue maybe to grow into management or to other things. But your job is to do that job with excellence in everything. Now, what I liked about this is that it's a very biblical principle. Whenever you take a look at, let me get this verse real quick, Luke 16:10. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. So that just comes back to do the small things with excellence, right? There's also another verse that is Matthew 25:21. His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." Now, these two verses, and there's a bunch more throughout the Bible that talk about doing the small things right, about how God looks at the heart, but man looks at the outward appearance. And so whether the French fries are the same and you're just following that system, or you're doing them with excellence through your heart, God is going to see your heart. And now, how does this relate? I'm sure you can see how this can relate from a biblical business standpoint. As leaders of our organizations, as hopefully leaders in our communities, as people that are here to represent God and represent Christianity and represent Jesus dying on the cross for us, doing everything with excellence is where our heart posture should be. Now, we might actually, typically, I know I fail at this a lot, where I don't always do things with excellence, even though I should be. But if our goal is to always do that, then not only will we do better in our businesses because we are making sure that all the little things are done properly, but we will also be a better representation of Christ, a better representation of God loving the world, and a better representation of who Christians are. Right? There's a lot of negativity in the world about Christians, about the hypocrisy of Christians. But our goal, right? We can't necessarily worry about what the world is saying, but about Christians in general. But we can consider what they're saying about us and how we as individuals represent Christ, represent God to the world. And the more that we can take every single thing, every thought captive, right? Every single thing that we do, we can take that captive and turn it over to God, the better that we will be representatives of Christ, the better that, maybe it's not going to lead to prosperity. I'm not saying that, hey, if you do all the small things, great, you're going to be prosperous. And then, God's going to honor that and you're going to have the best business ever and make a bunch of money. But what you will be doing is showing to the world that these little things matter and that your heart posture, that your commitment to God matters. So if you're doing paperwork, do it to the best of your ability, right? If you are, doing something that seems small, but whether people can see you do it or not, you should do these small things with excellence. For as Luke 16 says, Luke 16:10 says, one who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. Now, the article that I received in the email was not by a Christian. It was not by a biblical business owner, although it was from an entrepreneur who, in my opinion, wouldn't necessarily be a Christian from what I can tell, just based off of the way that they portray themselves to the world. So, and I might be wrong, but I would guess from that standpoint, he is not. So it kind of bothered me that there's an entrepreneur out there espousing these things from a non-Christian viewpoint. And I feel like as Christians, we should be the best at this. So we should be the ones portraying this. And I know I fail at that a lot of times. And so I assumed that the people that listen to this podcast fail at that at times too. And so I just wanted to make this as a reminder that for all of you that are working on your businesses, that you're trying to build something, don't always focus on the upper level, the higher level things. You want to make sure that even as you scale your business and you outsource tasks, that those little things are taken care of properly and with excellence in everything that you and your business does. Because ultimately, if you're a business owner, it's not just you who represents Christ, it's also your business, especially if you speak about your faith in any way. Your business will represent Christ. And in addition, even if you don't speak about God, you don't speak about your faith in your business, but if you're doing little things properly, that will represent God. You will get people that are like, wow, why do you care about making sure the bathrooms are so clean? Why do you care about making sure the trash is always picked up? Why do you care so much about making sure that everything is done properly? You might get those questions, and that gives you an opportunity to speak about God in a way that most people, unfortunately, in the world have never experienced. Somebody that cares about God so much that you would take the time to make sure that everything you do is done with excellence so that you can represent Christ as best as possible. And again, we all fail. We all fall short of the glory of God. But as Christians, as biblical business leaders, it is our job to make sure that we represent Christ in the best possible way every single time. And we will fail, but if we try, if our heart is in the right place, if we're doing our best to do the small things properly, then all in all, ultimately, at the end of the day, the end of the year, you will have done better than if you hadn't been trying to do the small things properly. So don't just let these small things in your business fall by the wayside. Don't just, give over complete control to somebody else. And whenever you're outsourcing and just be like, oh, they've got it. Always be concerned with how are the small things going. It doesn't mean that you have to do them all, but you have to at least train them and scale and systematize those processes properly so that it can ultimately be done with excellence throughout the whole entire organization. So I pray that this podcast blesses you and helps you, makes you think a little bit more about the little things that you're doing in your business. It kind of falls in line with the last couple of weeks, topics that I've been doing in terms of what your focus is on and whatnot. But this week I got that email and felt like it was something that all of you would benefit from, as well as myself, which is ultimately, it helped me a lot. So I wanted to make sure I put this out to you. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I do not take this opportunity lightly in any way. I hope that if you want to fellowship more together on this topic or any other topic relating to business and the Bible, and being a representative of Christ, please join the Facebook group. You can just search on Facebook Biblical Business Leaders. You can click the link in the description below, whatever's easiest for you. Also, if you'd rather watch this or listen to this on YouTube, we do have a YouTube page for Biblical Business Leaders, so you can find that there as well. So thank you again, everybody. I know this is a shorter podcast in comparison to last week's, which was about 30 minutes. But yeah, I hope this blesses you. And let me know your thoughts in the Facebook group. Would love to talk to you about it and hear some more ideas. So thank you so much. I hope you have a blessed week.